Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now just a couple of days out from Memorial Day, and we have a lot of things going on right now with Disney, Star Wars, and of course Lucasfilm, and how they have been handling the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny promotion and the marketing for that, and how Kathleen Kennedy really hasn't been doing the greatest job of doing that. But that brings us to exactly what Bob Iger has been up to and what he's been talking about when it comes to the Star Wars franchise. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And without wasting too much of your time, let's get right into the subject. Now, we know that Bob Iger, as of late, has been very direct with the franchise and the fan base, I should say, and what he's promising the Star Wars fans via Dave, John, and Tony. We have a lot of great things on the horizon, but one thing that Bob Iger recently was able to admit has a lot to do with how specifically something is coming to an end and it will be destroyed by, of course, via Disney and the Disney executives and the board, etc. Now, what's interesting about this is that Bob Iger, believe it or not, he's still in a constant shakeup between himself, the Disney executives, the board, and of course, other aspects of that is going to determine the future of Marvel, Star Wars, and just other Disney properties out there. Now, what's interesting about this is exactly what Bob Iger recently had to say to the entire Star Wars community, and exactly how it has a lot to do with him admitting specific things about Disney's way of handling Star Wars. Now, specifically, with both Disney and Lucasfilm preparing to announce a new slate of shows and movies by the end of this year. However, recently Disney CEO Bob Iger recently admitted the following to the entire Star Wars community. Now, he delivered the following. Over the years, we have come to realize that we weren't thinking the right way with this franchise. We were so focused on material, but not audience. And I am here to actually, thankfully, confirm that we are stripping away from our old ways of not thinking audience. We are doing away with the old ways of playing things safely and not catering to the fan base that has been so special to George over the years, and it's that and that alone why we lost the magic and found it difficult to discover. We are thankful to have those like John, Dave, and Tony with us working on great stories that will be using this strategy of thinking audience, that we want to put ourselves in the shoes of the audience and what they want to see on the big screen and at home on Disney+. Now, let me just stop right here for 1 second. This is very similar to what Dave Filoni talked about just yesterday and what Favreau talked about the day before, and basically how they are getting rid of this old way of thinking. They are literally just destroying this old way of thinking over at Disney, and how this era is coming to an end now of how they treated Star Wars in such a terrible way, and how they were not thinking through the eyes of the audience. They were thinking through the eyes of marketing. And that's actually a very interesting thing that Bob Iger is admitting here, is the fact that when they bought out Lucasfilm back in 2012, when Lucas handed it over to them, and Bob Iger signed everything and signed the papers and got Kathleen Kennedy involved, Lucas was actually led to believe that Kathleen Kennedy was the right choice to run things all Star Wars, and boy was he wrong on that one. But look, it wasn't really Lucas to blame. A lot of it had to do with Bob Iger suggesting that Kathleen Kennedy was the right choice because how she was involved with so many different properties back then, such as Back to the Future and others, just to name a few. So, what's interesting about this, though, is I know a lot of people tend to bring up the fact that Kathleen Kennedy was handling a lot of major properties out there before in the past, like Back to the Future, but we gotta remember that this was well before she had bad intentions or bad ambitions, if you will, for specific properties. It was a day before we had all these different drives and motives. Now, what's interesting, though, is how Bob Iger is making it openly clear here that he is stripping it all down, he's bringing it all to an end about this Disney era, of mistreating Star Wars franchises out there, or should I say a franchise like Star Wars and a franchise out there like Marvel, and how now it's all about really just focusing on the audience strictly and not about these specific motives like Kathleen Kennedy has been going through, and why she literally tore Star Wars down to the ground. Now, specifically, apart from this, he goes on to conclude, our old ways are all coming to a conclusion, and we are putting that way of thinking in the rear view window to ensure that Star Wars can become an even better and valuable product than what it was before. We realize we have a special responsibility, and that is to keep the core legacy alive and special. We are glad to also announce that we will have Lucas accompanying us and working with us directly on our future on making this brand into something very special and valuable again. When you buy a franchise as big as Star Wars, and naturally at first you don't know what to do with it properly, and it took us a couple of years to learn how to properly handle this big property. Now, Bob Iger, I don't know if you guys knew this, but he made it very clear to the fan base that when they were first handling the Galactic Star Cruiser event, or that experience, they too did not really know what to do with that. And now that the closing is confirmed to be happening by this September, they kind of gave us like a half apology where it didn't really come across as genuine. And he basically said that, well, yeah, this closing, it's going to give us the opportunity to do something new and to create an even better experience. Now, we've been hearing a lot of rumblings behind closed doors that the Galactic Star Cruiser event, or the experience, is going to become something like Star Wars again, except it's not going to be an experience, it's just going to be a Star Wars hotel that's going to be a regular hotel but Star Wars themed. And you know what, that's a very interesting way to go about doing things. If they are to do it that way, so be it. Don't make it into an experience that's going to be super expensive, just make it into a Star Wars themed hotel. Simply put, that's what they're aiming to do right now. So Galactic Star Cruiser is no more, and they're going to be rebranding that into something else Star Wars related. Now, what's interesting about this too is that Bob Iger is now fully focused on audience and the ways of how the audience thinks, putting themselves into the shoes. Now, they are crafting a brand new team. This is exactly how they're going to be going about doing this. And John and Dave talked about this just a couple days ago. This is all about developing two different teams that are going to focus on fan reception and fan feedback, delivering that back to Disney, and exactly how that's going to be their way of structuring what works and what does not work. How they can really ensure that anything moving forward is going to be a very valuable, Star Wars insert to the franchise. So basically, they are creating these teams that are going to really look or overlook Star Wars fans on social media, alright? And this could range anywhere from Twitter to Facebook to YouTube to anything like that, and to see fan reactions to basically new releases. For example, once Ahsoka releases, and let's say if it becomes a smash hit, they're going to really kind of just watch over that carefully and how they can move forward from there and see the fan reactions up close and personal. So they're going to have a whole team for that now. So overall, guys, drop a comment below. Fill me in below what you guys have to say about Disney CEO Bob Iger. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. And I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.